So we're in the new Kia Stinger, the twin-turbo V6. It's like having the torque of a Ford Barra engine in the refinement of a VF Commodore. You have to wonder how many people are going to buy it because it's, or won't buy it because of the Kia badge. But maybe if it had a XR6 badge on it, people might buy it, you reckon?
Well, I'll tell you what, it drives probably similar to a Barra in that aspect, but the car is a hell of a lot nicer than any Ford ever produced.
There she is, the V6. It's got really good torque from about 2,000 RPM, like it goes quite well. There's no need to, I think the red line's a bit over 6, so I can't even remember. You don't really need to rev it.
It doesn't feel like it falls over though, does it?
No, it doesn't, but you don't need to rev it to red line. At 100 Ks, the 8-speed box, pretty similar to something like a Commodore. It does about touch over 1,500 RPM. At 100 Ks. Now, I just filled it up, so I've done a tank of fuel and averaged 12.0 litres for 100 kilometres.
And that was a lot of urban driving.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've been driving it on boost a bit. It's not like I've been pussyfooting it around. But I don't think you're going to get that sort of... I've got a few mates who own LSs and stuff, and they certainly don't get that sort of fuel economy.
You can see how the turbos are quite close to the chassis rails there.
Bit of room for a high flow.
This particular car's actually been on the chassis dyno. It made around 240 kilowatts at the rear wheels.
Don't know if you'd be able to fit an LS in there. Maybe a Barra would fit.
Barra's got no chance. I reckon an LS for sure. At least it's a wide bay.
LS fits in everything.
Yeah, LSs are tiny.
One problem I will say with this engine, a bit like a Ford Barra, it doesn't sound that great. Like
it's like even when you thrash it, you might as well be driving a Camry. But it's good and bad. I think if it's quiet, like sometimes you think, well, I don't want a car that makes noise, but other times you open it up and you think it's just there's no audio. And I think Kia have talked about optioning a sports exhaust system.
Bimodal system.
It should probably be on their standard.
Yeah, it's in a way it's good. It's unassuming on the road. Like you can obviously overtake someone or accelerate quickly, and it doesn't make any noise. That is good. But to be perfectly honest, I think if you put an exhaust on it, I don't think it's going to sound that great.
No.
V6s just don't. They got too much of a bark, and there's no intake noise at all. Like driving the car, you would not know this is turbocharged, would you?
No, and realistically, putting an exhaust on, you're right. It's just going to probably almost create a dirty V6 noise.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't even bother with an exhaust on it.
We've seen a few people put like a proper.
Be interesting, yeah. Put
air
an
filter set up, and maybe that you can. Honestly, driving it, it's very quiet. It just sounds like a taxi, to be honest.
That's no LS.
LS, come on. That's the one downside of a car like this. It doesn't matter what you do to it, I don't think it's ever going to sound fantastic. And it certainly isn't going to sound like this. The brakes are fantastic. Brembos, and as you can see, they're fairly large discs. These are 19 inches, 225s on the front and 255s on the back.
You did a few hard stops. I was very impressed with how well this thing pulled up.
Now the boot. I cart a lot of stuff around for work, as you can see. It's a large boot, it's not enormous.
It's a hell of a lot more usable than a sedan.
Oh yeah. And the back of the car, it's got quite a wide look. If you get like a dead end, a rear shot, one oddball thing with the styling is I think this bit's a bit odd.
Yeah, that side reflector.
I don't think it needs to be there.
No.
That line should have doesn't need to be on both sides of that panel line. We've had so many people come up to us in the last couple of days asking what car it is. They can't believe it's got a Kia badge on it. We actually drove it to Pizza Society in the Docklands a couple of nights ago. A very popular hangout in Melbourne for car enthusiasts. And yeah, got a lot of looks. A lot of people are asking us about the car.
A lot of people that you can tell aren't even car enthusiasts, just curiously say, what is that? What type of car is it?
Yeah, it kind of looks, I think at the back, it looks a little bit like a Maserati. Now I could be completely wrong on this, but I think this model is about 60 grand. And the GT model, I think you've got to add on probably another 8,000 or 9,000. So I think it pushes it up near close to 70. I think that's the price. I haven't even
so
looked
this
it up.
model basically comes with all the good mechanical driveline.
Yeah, brakes and the rest of it.
But it misses out on things like it doesn't have the moonroof, a lot of the fancy, I guess, interior features.
I took a few people out to lunch the other day, and both of them hopped in the back and hit their head on here. It slopes down quite low. It's fairly low. This is one disadvantage I think of this car. Even the front seats, it's quite a low car to get into. Like if you're a bit, you know, maybe on the larger size, you might have trouble getting in and out of this car, or elderly. But there isn't heaps of headroom. So, like, that's actually hitting my head. I'm not overly tall, but on the upside, there's a lot of leg room here. That's where I'm sitting at the moment, the driving position. It's look at the space you got there. It's pretty good.
But your head hits the roof.
Yeah,
it does a bit, yeah.
If you had 3 people in the back, yeah, it'd be quite uncomfortable. But I think 2 adults can sit in here. It's not terrible, but I think even in the driver's position, I think you'd be struggling. I'd be struggling to drive this with a helmet on.
A lot of leg room for the passenger.
Yeah, there is, yeah. As you can see, the interior is quite nice. It's got a bit of an AMG feel with these sort of vents here. The steering wheel's a nice size. It's not huge. It's got paddle shifts on it.
The quality of the fit and finish, I think, is excellent.
Excellent, yeah, very nice. There's nothing really I've found on the inside that I've had. The only thing that so far has really annoyed me is the nav system, but that's another issue. This carbon fibre looks a little bit cheap. I think over time that's not going to wear very well. But overall, it's quite nice inside. It's got LED headlights. These vents have no purpose, they're fake. As you can see, there's no actual vent there. And after driving the car for half an hour, if you put your hand here, it's quite hot. So if you're giving the car a bit of a hard time, yeah, I'm surprised how much heat comes up here, considering the turbos are tucked down against the engine. It's not like it's right up against the thing, but obviously there's a lot of heat being pulled through this and out behind the wheel.
The beeping does not stop.
Some cars are smart, they beep like 3 times. Yeah, I've got my keys in it, whatever, for whatever reason it wants to beep, and then it stops. Some cars like this just beep and beep and beep, and there's nothing you can do. I know it's a small thing, but over time these things just annoy the shit out of you. So everything's pretty dry here. We're just coming out of the Australian summer. We have had like F all rain in the last 2 months. There's been a lot of talk online about this car, you know, good and bad, and I've seen a lot of people reviewing cars, not necessarily even this car. They look at heaps of stats, they don't even actually drive the car and then somehow get an opinion of a car they've never driven. I didn't want to do that. I know the basics of the car, but I didn't want to look at other reviews heaps and then get an impression before I even drove the car. So I just want to run through some things. I've been driving it for 3 days now. I just want to get some impressions of what I like and what I dislike about the car. The first thing, obviously, the engine is fantastic. It's a 3.3 litre, yeah?
Yeah, there's torque everywhere.
Yeah,
like, I think it makes max torque from 1300 RPM or something. So it's got a big, fat torque curve.
Yeah, very capable engine.
And it feels like that off the line, even second gear acceleration. It just it goes as soon as you put the foot down. Doesn't matter. And it doesn't really drop off either, does it?
But probably the biggest thing I've noticed, comparing it to another large car, say, i.e. a Falcon, is this transmission is fantastic. 8-speed auto, but it's very smart. It's always in the right gear. It's got sport mode, comfort mode, all that, you know, razzmatazz, but I tried it in the economy mode, and yes, I didn't think there was much of a difference, but yes, there is a difference. If you leave it in sport mode, even just driving it around town, it tends just to, it doesn't change up and down as quick in terms of, it holds the gear longer, so the car feels a bit more responsive and planted on the road. But yeah, the engine and the transmission are mated quite well. It's got paddle shifts. I'll just drop it back. It's 4th gear, 3rd gear. The shifts, like, they're not, it's not like a really sharp...
It's not like a DSG.
Yeah, not like a really sharp DSG gearbox, but it's not bad. You gotta remember, this is a big car. It's a touring car. It's not, you know, it's not like driving something like a VW Golf. Saying that, it handles and brakes well. The brakes are fantastic. It doesn't feel mega heavy.
No.
The steering feels, it's really sharp.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know what the turns, you know, how many turns it is lock to lock, but like, it's got a shorter rack in it. You don't have to turn it heaps and the car just turns into a corner quite well. And the steering wheel's a nice feel. It's leather, but it's small. It's a good size for this car. It's not big. The steering isn't vague at all. It's one thing, like say, I think Holden never got right in any of their cars for the last 20 years was the steering. They all had the same floaty, vague steering. This feels so much sharper. We're not even touching 1200 RPM and the car's just purrs up and down the hills fine. It doesn't feel like it hunts or struggles.
Speed camera, welcome to Australia.
Speed camera. Saving lives. 5 kilometres at a time. Yeah, one of the good features is the adaptive cruise, but that's pretty common on cars now. It's got lane departure. I find that a little bit annoying. I mean, I don't even know if you can turn it off. Beep, how do I turn it off? Hang on. I'm turning this shit off. This may sound dumb, but one feature I like about, because I cart a lot of stuff around in the boot, I've always got camera gear and that sort of thing. This has got 2 really bright LEDs, but they're in a really smart location. Quite often where the light is, you're putting a bag or something and it just blocks all the light. So Jordan, how do you find the navigation system in the Kia?
Very frustrating. It's terrible. You type a town in, there's no option just to select town centre. I don't know the name of a country town, like a street. I just want to go to that town. In the end, I'm using Google Maps to look up addresses to type into the GPS. Like last night, I live in a street, but the street would be a 40, 50-year-old street. It's not a new area. It's a very old area. It couldn't even find my address. I typed in multiple numbers of the same street. It just said not found. It's definitely spelt correct. I mean, I don't understand some cars how they pass usability testing with things like this. It's so frustrating when they don't work correctly.
So that's our 5 minutes with the Kia. Just want to give a big thanks to Car Advice for loaning us the car. If you want to know more about the Kia or any other car, check out caradvice.com.au. And what did you think of the Kia?
I was pretty impressed with it. How it goes, how it stops, how it looks. I reckon it's a good looking car. It doesn't make any noise though. So yeah, that leads us into a question.
Cut all that, would you buy one?
No.
Well, if you're in the market, it depends what you're in the market for. If you're in the market for...
Exactly. And look, cars this size aren't... Some people, this is the type of car they want, this size family car. For me personally, I prefer a smaller car. Even though I drive a car this size, this is how ironic it is, but I probably won't have it much longer. Yeah. But it is a very good car. Just because I wouldn't buy it, it doesn't necessarily mean I don't like the car. It just depends on what you need and what time of your life.
The thing is though, realistically, if you're in the market for a Falcon or a Commodore type car, you'd be pretty silly not to go and check out one of a Stinger.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads us into that. What market is this aimed at? Well, because Ford and Holden have disappeared, there's a huge hole in the market for a performance rear-wheel drive car now. And would, I guess, a Ford or Holden ex-owner, let's say a guy that's not a guy, but
HSV owner,
girl or guy, exactly, who's bought one a Ford or Holden maybe 5 years ago that maybe wants a newer car now, would they? I think they should look at it. I think they'd be surprised how it goes. I think the noise though would be a factor, especially with V8 guys.
You were saying earlier the car would look a lot different if you changed the wheels.
Yeah, I reckon the stance of the car needs a bit more aggressive. If you put a nice set of, for instance, on this car, or this colour I should say, some people like it, some people don't. If you had like a dark grey or a bronze wheel or something on it, more of a Japanese wheel maybe, if you changed the stance of the car a little bit, I think it would go a long way. I actually think it would improve it dramatically. Yeah. I think it's a good looking car. Personally, I don't like the wheels that much. That would go a long way in improving how it looks.
Even though this is quite a slick transmission, I would like to drive the car with a manual gearbox. I know it wouldn't be as fast and all that, but I just love stick shifts. I've only ever owned... Let me think about that. I've only ever actually owned one automatic car.
Way back in the day, yeah.
That was actually a Commodore. But nothing against automatics, but I just prefer a manual car. But I can see why people drive an auto car in a bigger car. It's a bit different. This, I know it wouldn't be as quick, but I wouldn't mind. I know that there's no manual option available, is there?
No, not in Australia.
So. Obviously, with Ford and Holden, they're not selling a rear-wheel drive four-door car. This car, obviously, you can see the baby seat here. I had my daughter in it last night. Took her for a drive. She really liked it. But what about you guys? Any of you guys have owned or do own a Kia Stinger or have driven one? Let us know what you think. It's just showing the killer DAP radio here, the 80s.